What you're about to see isn't just about a food delivery driver who disappeared. This case only makes sense once you understand what the digital evidence revealed and what his former roommate had been planning for weeks. Murder disguised as a meetup to talk. At first, the Walmart surveillance footage shows two vehicles entering the parking lot separately. One belongs to Sean Joseph, 30 years old, a DoorDash driver who thinks he's meeting his old friend to resolve a fight over a girl. The other belongs to Royce Loggins, 31 years old, who's already decided this conversation will end with a gunshot. At 8:57 p.m., Sean's sister is on the phone with him. She hears a male voice in the background. Sean says,
"I'll call you back."
He never does. 3 hours later, at 11:56 p.m., a security camera captures the sound of a single gunshot, a dark figure dropping to the ground, and a silver SUV driving away.
Sean was the person that made everybody laugh. He was the person that can walk in the room and change the atmosphere.
Welcome to Last Witness. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more haunting crime stories that expose how modern technology connects us to both opportunity and danger. Driver who disappeared. This case only makes sense once you understand what the digital evidence revealed and what his former roommate had been planning for weeks. Murder disguised as a meetup to talk. At first, the Walmart surveillance footage shows two vehicles entering the parking lot separately. One belongs to Sean Joseph, 30 years old, a DoorDash driver who thinks he's meeting his old friend to resolve a fight over a girl. The other belongs to Royce Loggins, 31 years old, who's already decided this conversation will end with a gunshot. At 8:57 p.m., Sean's sister is on the phone with him. She hears a male voice in the background. Sean says,
"I'll call you back."
He never does. 3 hours later, at 11:56 p.m., a security camera captures the sound of a single gunshot, a dark figure dropping to the ground, and a silver SUV driving away. Pay attention to Sean Joseph, 30 years old, driving through Round Rock, Texas, on the night of October 5th, 2023. It was a Thursday evening. He'd been working his DoorDash shift, delivering food across Williamson County, making money the same way millions of gig workers do. On this night, Sean planned to finish his deliveries, meet up with his former roommate to clear the air about a recent falling out, and then head home to his mother's house. On this night, Royce Loggins planned to lure Sean to an empty parking lot, shoot him in the head, dump his body 100 miles away in a rural field, and disappear with the murder weapon. Sean Joseph wasn't a stranger to struggle. At 30, he was living with his mother, using her car to make food deliveries, trying to build something better. The DoorDash gig wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. He'd been friends with Royce Loggins since he was 14 years old, 16 years of friendship, roommates at one point. The kind of relationship where you trust the person enough to meet them late at night in a parking lot because they say they want to talk things out. But recent weeks had changed things between them. They'd had a falling out over a girl, the kind of conflict that ruins friendships, that turns people who once had each other's backs into strangers, or worse, into enemies. Sean had no idea that when Royce called him at 8:36 p.m., asking to meet at the Walmart on East Palm Valley Boulevard, it wasn't to reconcile. It was to execute a plan that Royce had been formulating, a plan that would require a gun, cleaning supplies, and a remote location in Milam County where nobody would find Sean's body for 12 days. At 8:36 p.m. on October 5th, 2023, Sean Joseph's phone registered an incoming call from Royce Loggins. Cell tower data would later confirm both phones were in the Round Rock area. The call lasted several minutes, and by the end of it, they'd agreed to meet at the Walmart parking lot at 4700 East Palm Valley Boulevard. This wasn't a random location. It was a place both men knew. Massive parking lot, open 24 hours, far enough from the main entrance that you could park in a remote section and have privacy. The kind of place you'd pick if you wanted to talk without interruption, or the kind of place you'd pick if you wanted to commit murder without witnesses. At 8:57 p.m., Sean's sister called him. They talked briefly. Then she heard something that would haunt her forever, a male voice in the background. Sean told her, "I'll call you back," and ended the call. He never called back. That was the last time anyone in Sean Joseph's family heard his voice. Watch what the Walmart surveillance cameras captured over the next 3 hours. At approximately 11:52 p.m., two sport utility vehicles enter the parking lot from different directions. One is dark-colored, the other is a silver SUV. They don't park near the store. They circle slowly, deliberately, moving toward the most remote section of the lot, far from cameras, far from witnesses, far from help. That circling pattern tells us this wasn't casual. Both drivers knew where they were going. Both were positioning themselves. And one of them, Royce Loggins, in the silver SUV, was preparing to fire the weapon he'd brought with him. At exactly 11:56 p.m., the surveillance audio picks up a sound that changes everything. A gunshot. The camera is too far away to capture clear details, but the timestamp doesn't lie. 11:56 p.m., a muzzle flash. A dark figure dropping to the ground. Another figure standing over the fallen one. And then the silver SUV's headlights turning on, illuminating the scene for exactly 3 seconds before the vehicle speeds away, leaving Sean Joseph bleeding to death on the asphalt. The next morning, October 6, 2023, Round Rock Police Department officers responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle parked in a remote section of the Walmart parking lot on East Palm Valley Boulevard. When they arrived, they found a car registered to Bridget McCarty, Sean Joseph's mother. The giving the theft with our deaving. The vehicle was empty. The driver's door was slightly open, and surrounding the car was evidence that made officers' instincts scream. This is a crime scene. Blood, significant amounts of it, pooled near the driver's side. A cell phone lying on the ground, screen cracked, white earbuds tangled nearby. And most telling of all, a .45 caliber shell casing. Officers immediately secured the scene and contacted the vehicle's registered owner. Bridget McCarty told them her 30-year-old son, Sean, had been using the car the night before to make DoorDash deliveries. He was supposed to come home. He never did. His phone was going straight to voicemail because it was lying in a puddle of his own blood in the Walmart parking lot. This is where the investigation transforms from a missing person case to a homicide. Detectives reviewed every second of Walmart's surveillance footage. They saw the 2 SUVs entering. They saw the remote section of the lot. They heard the gunshot at 11:56 p.m. They saw the silver SUV fleeing immediately after. But who was driving that silver SUV? That's where modern technology became the key to solving Sean Joseph's murder. Detectives didn't just rely on surveillance cameras. They deployed a combination of digital evidence, forensic analysis, and something most people don't realize is tracking them everywhere they drive. License plate recognition technology. Automated license plate readers mounted on police cars, traffic lights, and fixed locations throughout cities capture and log every vehicle that passes. The data creates a digital trail, showing where vehicles have been, what time they were there, and what direction they were traveling. When detectives ran the silver SUV's plates through the system, a name came back immediately. Royce DeFranklin Loggins, 31 years old. And when they cross-referenced Royce's phone records with Sean's, they found the 8:36 p.m. call, the call where Royce had set up the meeting that ended with Sean's murder. But Sean's body wasn't in the parking lot. Despite the blood, despite the shell casing, despite the phone and earbuds, there was no body. Royce Loggins had taken it somewhere, and detectives needed to find Sean Joseph before any chance of justice disappeared with him. On October 6th, less than 24 hours after the murder, detectives got a ping from Royce Loggins' cell phone. The location, Haltom City, Texas, a suburb near Fort Worth, approximately 200 miles from Round Rock. Local police were contacted immediately. When officers arrived at the America Best Value and Suites Hotel, they spotted Royce's silver SUV in the parking lot. And there, on the exterior of the vehicle, officers observed something that confirmed every suspicion: visible blood stains. As officers set up surveillance, Royce emerged from his hotel room. He was detained without incident. And when officers searched him, they found 2 handguns. One of them, a .45 caliber pistol, matched the shell casing found at the Walmart crime scene, the murder weapon. But that wasn't all Royce had brought to the hotel. Inside his room, officers found cleaning supplies, bleach, ammonia, rags, the tools of someone trying to erase evidence, trying to scrub away blood, trying to disappear a human being. This is where Royce Loggins' story stops making sense. If this was a fight that escalated, if this was self-defense, if this was anything other than premeditated murder, why the cleaning supplies? Why the 200-mile drive to a hotel? Why flee immediately after the shooting instead of calling 911 and claiming you feared for your life? Every piece of evidence points to planning. The phone call setting up the meeting, the choice of a remote parking lot, the firearm brought to the scene, the immediate flight afterward, the cleaning supplies to destroy evidence. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was execution. But detectives still didn't have Sean's body, and without it, prosecutors couldn't prove murder. They could charge Royce with assault, kidnapping, maybe tampering with evidence. But murder requires a body. It requires proof that the victim is dead. While Royce Loggins sat in custody, refusing to talk, forensic teams began analyzing every piece of digital evidence they could find. Phone records, GPS data, cell tower pings, electronic breadcrumbs that would lead investigators to a rural field in Milam County, and to the answer Sean Joseph's family had been dreading. Modern smartphones are surveillance devices we carry willingly. They track our locations constantly. They log our movements. They create a permanent record of everywhere we've been. Whether we realize it or not, Royce Loggins' phone had been creating that record throughout October 5th and 6th, and when forensic analysts examined the data, a pattern emerged. After leaving the Walmart at 11:56 p.m. Following the gunshot, Royce's phone didn't go straight to Haltom City. It went south, into rural Texas, to an area approximately 100 miles from Round Rock. Milam County, population 24,000 people, spread across 1,022 square miles of farmland, cattle ranches, and empty roads. The kind of place where you can dump a body and reasonably believe nobody will. Drove for over an hour through the darkness and disposed of him like garbage. That's not the action of someone who panicked. That's not someone who made a terrible mistake in the heat of the moment. That's someone who planned to kill and planned to get away with it. Why did Royce Loggins kill Sean Joseph? The official answer? They were former roommates who'd had a falling out over a girl, a love triangle, a conflict that escalated from friendship to resentment to murder. In the time staff and the program permitted, but does that explanation make sense? Sean had known Royce since he was 14 years old, 16 years of friendship. They'd lived together, they'd trusted each other. And over a romantic conflict, the kind of thing that ends friendships every day without anyone dying, Royce decided the only solution was a bullet to the head? There had to be more. Jealousy that had festered into rage, paranoia, a sense of betrayal so deep that Royce couldn't see any other path forward. Or maybe something darker, a side of Royce Loggins that nobody had seen before, a capacity for violence that had been hiding beneath the surface for years. Court documents would later reveal that during his incarceration, Royce experienced periods of mental incompetence, including hallucinations. His defense attorney described these episodes during his plea hearing. Was Royce mentally ill before the murder? Had untreated psychological issues turned a personal conflict into lethal violence? We may never know the full truth. Royce pled guilty on September 15, 2025, accepting a 40-year prison sentence in exchange for prosecutors dropping the tampering with a corpse charge. He never went to trial. He never had to explain himself publicly. He just admitted, yes, I killed him. But before Royce was sentenced, there was one person who had something to say to him. Someone who'd been waiting nearly 2 years for the chance to look her son's killer in the eye and tell him exactly what he'd taken from her. On September 15, 2025, Bridget McCarty stood at a podium in a Williamson County courtroom. Across from her sat Royce Loggins, the man who'd killed her son, dumped his body in a field, and left her family searching for answers for 12 agonizing days. With thatting, lettered in Menon, Royce had provided her with a letter. In it, he accepted responsibility and apologized for what happened. But Bridget didn't want his apology. She wanted him to understand the magnitude of what he'd destroyed. In her victim impact statement, she described the void Royce's actions had left in their hearts. She reminded him that he'd known Sean since he was 14 years old. That Sean had shown him kindness, friendship, loyalty for 16 years. And this was how Royce repaid it, with betrayal and murder. She told him that she didn't recognize herself anymore, that the world felt scarier, that no matter how much time Royce served in prison, her son would still be gone. And then, in a moment that courtroom observers would describe as powerful and heartbreaking.
At one point in the victim impact statement, McCarty told Loggins, "You've been reduced to nothing."
The statement was so impactful, so cutting, that one of Royce's family members in the gallery began shouting. They had to be escorted out of the courtroom, Go back to that phone call at 8:36 p.m. on October 5th. Royce calling Sean, suggesting they meet to talk things out. Sean agreeing, believing his old friend wanted to resolve their conflict. Now that we know Royce had already decided to kill him, now that we know he brought a .45 caliber pistol to that meeting, now that we know he'd already planned where to dump the body, that phone call becomes something else entirely. It wasn't an invitation to reconcile. It was a death sentence disguised as friendship. Bridget McCarty told reporters after the sentencing that she didn't feel justice had been served. "Do I feel that he got justice? No," she said. 40 years is nothing, but I got something. I wanted him to have life in prison without the possibility of parole. But 40 years was what the system could offer, and it meant Royce Loggins, now 31 years old, wouldn't be eligible for release until he was 71 if he lived that long. This case was solved by a combination of old-school detective work and cutting-edge technology. Without the digital evidence, Royce might have gotten away with it. Without license plate recognition tracking his silver SUV, without cell tower data placing his phone in Milam County, without surveillance footage capturing the murder in real time, Sean Joseph might have become another unsolved missing person case. But the same technology that solved this crime is also tracking you right now. License plate readers log your movements. Your phone pings cell towers constantly. Security cameras record you everywhere you go. Retailers track your purchases. Apps monitor your location. For people like Royce Loggins who commit crimes, this technology is terrifying. There's no such thing as anonymity anymore. You can't shoot someone in a parking lot and disappear. The digital trail will find you. For people like Sean Joseph's family, this technology is justice. It's the reason they got answers. It's the reason Royce couldn't lie his way out of what he'd done. It's the reason a murderer is spending 40 years in prison instead of walking free. Sean Joseph was working for DoorDash the night he was murdered. He was using his mother's car to deliver food because that's how millions of Americans earn money now. The gig economy promised flexibility and independence, but it also created vulnerability. Gig workers don't have the protections that traditional employees have. No health insurance, no life insurance, minimal death benefits if something happens on the job. When Sean died, his family didn't receive substantial compensation from DoorDash. They got condolences and a standard payout that barely covered funeral expenses. The companies that profit from gig labor don't want to talk about cases like Sean's. They don't want to acknowledge that their workers are being attacked, robbed, kidnapped, and killed while making deliveries. They prefer to frame these incidents as isolated tragedies, not systemic risks. But the numbers tell a different story. Between 2018 and 2022, over 350 gig workers were carjacked, with 28 killed. Delivery drivers are targeted because criminals know they're alone, working late hours, carrying cash or valuable items, and often in unfamiliar areas with no backup. Sean Joseph wasn't killed while making a delivery. He was killed during his time off. But the reason he was in that parking lot, the reason he was available to meet Royce at midnight on a Thursday, was because his DoorDash shift had just ended. His job put him in that place at that time, and a man who used to be his friend took advantage of it. October 5th through October 17th, 2023, 12 days, 288 hours. That's how long Bridget McCarty and her family searched for Sean. They posted missing person flyers across Round Rock and beyond. They organized search parties. They contacted local news stations. They begged anyone with information to come forward. They held on to hope even as that hope grew thinner with each passing day. During those 12 days, Royce Loggins knew exactly where Sean was. He'd driven the body there himself. He'd left Sean in that remote Milam County field and then fled to Haltom City, trying to put as much distance between himself and his crime as possible. While Bridget was printing flyers, Royce was in a hotel room with cleaning supplies, trying to scrub away evidence. While Sean's family was organizing search parties, Royce was sitting with the murder weapon still in his possession, believing he'd gotten away with it. But on October 6th, just one day after the murder, police had already arrested him. The technology had already caught him. The digital trail had already led investigators directly to his door. Royce spent those 12 days in custody, knowing where the body was, refusing to tell anyone, letting Sean's family suffer through the agony of not knowing. That cruelty, that willingness to let a mother search desperately for her dead son while you sit silent, that might be even worse than the murder itself. This was the last moment where the outcome could have changed. 8:36 p.m., October 5th, 2023. The phone call. If Sean had ignored it, if he'd told Royce he wasn't interested in meeting, if he'd brought someone with him to the Walmart, if he'd chosen a public location instead of an empty parking lot. But Sean trusted Royce. 16 years of friendship doesn't disappear overnight. When your former roommate calls and says, "Let's talk things out," you believe him. You show up. You give him the benefit of the doubt. That trust cost Sean Joseph his life. The case against Royce Loggins was overwhelming. Surveillance footage of the murder, license plate data tracking his vehicle, cell phone records proving the setup call, GPS data leading to the body, the murder weapon found in his possession, his own guilty plea admitting everything. There was no defense, no reasonable explanation, no way to spin this as anything other than what it was. Premeditated murder followed by a failed attempt to hide the evidence. On September 15th, 2025, Royce Loggins was sentenced to 40 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. He gets credit for the nearly 2 years he's already served. If he behaves perfectly, he might be released in his early 70s. More likely, he'll die in prison. A combination of digital evidence, surveillance footage, and license plate recognition technology led investigators to Royce Loggins. That same technology led them to Sean Joseph's body in a remote Milam County field. They showed everything: the setup, the murder, the disposal, the flight. Everything except the one thing that still doesn't make sense: how 16 years of friendship could end with a gunshot in a Walmart parking lot over a conflict that should have been resolved with words, not bullets. Sean Joseph died at 30 years old. He was a son, a brother, a friend. He was a DoorDash driver, trying to make money, trying to build something better, and he trusted the wrong person one last time. Royce Loggins, now 33, sits in a Texas prison cell. He has decades ahead of him to think about what he did, to think about the friend he murdered, the family he destroyed, the life he threw away. Bridget McCarty goes to bed every night in a house where her son should be but isn't. She doesn't recognize herself anymore. The world feels scarier. And no guilty plea, no prison sentence, no amount of time will ever bring Sean back. This case has been examined to understand how technology solves crimes, how betrayal manifests as violence, and how families survive unimaginable loss. The surveillance footage, the phone records, the GPS data, they all told the same story. A story of premeditated murder disguised as reconciliation. If someone from your past calls wanting to meet late at night in an isolated location, trust your instincts. If a personal conflict feels like it's escalating beyond words, walk away. If you work in the gig economy, share your location with family always. Sean Joseph believed his old friend wanted to make peace. Instead, he drove into an ambush, and the technology that tracked his final movements became the same technology that delivered justice for his murder. What could Sean have done differently? How can we protect gig workers who are alone and vulnerable? Share your thoughts below. And if you have someone in your life who delivers food, who works alone at night, who trusts too easily, send them this video. Let them know that not everyone who calls claiming friendship has good intentions.